Hello, everyone. My name is Ernest Covington, the Executive Director for the Commission on the Deaf and Hard of Hearing. I just want to share some Zoom protocols and policies before we start this ad hoc committee. The Zoom meeting will be recorded, and then it will be uploaded for the public to be able to view. Zoom allows only 4 screens to be on the screen at one time with the recording. So we will have the person speaking, the 2 interpreters, and then the deaf interpreter as well. Any comments that need to be made, if you want to ask a question, please state your name, and we will make certain that you're spotlighted. You can go ahead and share your comments, and then when that's completed, you can turn your camera back off. And then if someone wanted to add something, that person will then come on screen. They will be spotlighted. They will make their comment, and then will come off the screen. Keeping in mind, only 4 screens will be able to be accessed at one time. So when that is done and the Zoom meeting is over, it will be shared with the public. If there's any questions or any concerns that you have about the protocol, please reach out to me, and you can do that through chat, or you can just pop on the screen and ask me to clarify something, whatever is needed to be clarified. Thank you so much. So I will now let Rain go ahead and officially start the meeting, and I will go ahead and go camera off. Thank you.
Hello. Hello, everyone. So first, I wanted to check communication. I can't see any of you here. So I'm hoping if you're able to come on screen, if you're struggling with accessing the captions, a cart, or maybe you can't see the interpreter, or maybe you prefer the deaf interpreter to just recap what was just said, please come up on screen. And we'll have more opportunities to come up on screen throughout the meeting here. If there are any discussion-worthy points, any barriers, anything, now's your time. So we will give you a minute to come on screen. See if everybody has access tonight. Okay, hearing no complaints. If so, please come up on screen and let us know. Tonight, there is no chat. It is deactivated. So if there is a problem with access, the only choice tonight is to be seen on screen. Because we are limiting the Zoom screen to four screens here. So if you're having trouble with access, the chat, perfect. The chat has been enabled. So chat is now permitted. That means that you can go ahead and voice your opinions through chat, or say nothing, or if at any time during the meeting someone is not clear, or maybe there are tech problems, sometimes that happens, please just come on screen. Yep. Well, I just came on screen to say I couldn't chat. It seems like it's disabled again. Right. Seems that it's still deactivated. It's disabled. Oh, now it's open. Oh, now it's deactivated. It's on and off. Turbulent over here. Well, hopefully we can resolve that issue. No, the chat is disabled again. If we open our chats, it says chat disabled. As soon as it opens, it's open now. Let's see, it seems to be staying on. I was able to send a message out for everyone. Hopefully it stays on. All right, so it seems we are all set now. We are okay. So if there are any communication struggles, or maybe you don't understand what we're speaking about, if you'd just like to clarify a concept. Yes, so Anne, yes, we see your chat, Anne. We're all good. So if there are any questions, then you can now communicate in the chat as well. So either come up on screen or you can put your thoughts in the chat. I did want to clarify, Ernest had just come on screen and explained the policies for tonight. So it was a little bit contradicting. So we are recording currently. There are 4 screens, 4 tiles on the screen. And if you want to come on screen, we're not planning to utilize the spotlight feature tonight. This committee had spoken with each other, and every once in a while do check in with each other, and it seems like it's much easier if we do not use the spotlight feature, but just limit those tiles on the Zoom, and then have people come on and off screen when they're going to make their thoughts known. So I'm speaking right now. When I'm done speaking, I will go off screen and the interpreters will stay on screen, and the next person that has thoughts and they would like to speak can come on screen. So that's the plan. There's not going to be any spotlight being used tonight. We have 3 interpreters here tonight. There's Rosa, Heather. Those are the 2 hearing interpreters, and 1 deaf interpreter, Kendra. And the deaf interpreter is here tonight for points of clarity, or if maybe you would like a better recap of what was just said, maybe if you decide you would like to see something restated, if you could just come on screen or put in the chat that you would like that concept reinterpreted. Or even if you are watching and you wanted to come up and summarize something, or Kendra would summarize, but Kendra will decide if she would like to clarify or not. And the third thing is that I might ask Kendra, well, I have information that others have made known about their accessibility preferences. And so me monitoring the chat, I might call Kendra to come up to clarify something. It doesn't mean that I'm trying to, correct someone or make someone feel a certain way or bad. It's just that I know the people's needs in the audience, and we're here to let that just make everybody's communication clear.
Sorry about that. And then Kendra was adding the comment. We just want to make sure that information is accessible to everyone in equal access.
Perfect. So feel free to stop us at any time. And we're here to clarify points for you. Okay, moving on. I do see some people here for public comment, which is great. We're excited to have you. It's nice to have it on Zoom. That's the benefit. More people from the community are able to join in on these meetings. It's wonderful. So the governor had an executive order that gave an exemption of having meetings in person. So we went online, but then that executive order ended, and then it was reinstated, and then it got kind of got extended, and then we just found out today or yesterday that it extended again until the 21st. So I know that it's been, kind of a mess, and we're not sure like if it's going to be on Zoom or in person, but we are trying to make use of the public platform here on Zoom, because it is really, really difficult to have a meeting in person for many people. Access being one reason, COVID being another, and maybe people are disabled and they're not able to get there. So we've been talking about making a permanent ADA accommodation to have these held online. It was requested through me, but we had requested it to the CDHH, and I'm not sure, because of the governor and the Open Meetings Act, they said that contradicted the law. So we were unable to have a permanent ADA accommodation to have these meetings online. So there has been meetings and phone calls and discussions with people that who handle accommodations I've been working with. But the accommodation should apply in general to the Commission for the Deaf and Hard of Hearing, Rhode Island. But my understanding is that I'm just gonna have to focus on this committee. That would be, I can send my thoughts, but I can only have power over this committee. So I can only influence their process when I speak up. So we're still in the process of doing that. For tonight, there are some members here, not all. We had to set up a meeting here quickly before that executive order had expired. So we have it here on Zoom tonight. I am here. I'm the chair, Rain. We also have Drew present. I gotta spell your last name correctly. Hold on. Drew Boslin. I was right. Perfect. I just had to double check. We also have Anne McDonald is present tonight. We have Tina Nelson, who's also present tonight. So those individuals are all here on the committee. There are more committee members, and some of them had attended previously, the end of December. But it seems like, there are some people who can make it sometimes and others not. So it's a challenge to get everybody here on the same day, but we'll try to resolve that. So we do have notes from the minutes from the last meeting, and we can share here for approval. I'm just trying to think if any members who are here were at the last meeting, because it just seems to be a little bit of a challenge to get the minutes approved for those people who aren't there. But I know Anne and myself, we were there, and I think that's it. So we can move forward and go ahead and try to finish off the minutes, get through that. And then I'm going to go ahead and screen share now. I'll give you all time to read this, and I'll ask them to scroll up periodically. Please hold. I hope you had an opportunity to read the minutes. I know that they were heavy English based. That meeting was heavy discussion on multiple topics, and the topics, yeah, they were pretty heavy, and there were also various tech problems involved with that meeting, and those tech problems caused communication barriers during the meeting. It was in person, which we found quite challenging. The technology problems in person were almost worse than the internet. But in regards to CART, people having masks, hard to hear, hard to see mouth movements and signing at the same time. They had that, how do you describe it? That camera, the panoramic camera for public, so the public can see. However, they cannot comment, they can't be involved, but they can watch it. And that's through that panoramic camera, but that panoramic camera wasn't working. It's just not accessible. It was accessible, it just wasn't working. So yeah, we couldn't see. Well, both it was not accessible and it didn't work. It didn't function and it was not accessible. So it really did throw a wrench in our meeting. In that meeting, there were various people with different needs for communication. Some are using CART, some are using sign language. And for a variety of reasons, we did have to just hold the meeting a few times just so people could catch up or clarify. I want to give two examples, and one would be so I guess I'm just explaining why the minutes were so heavy in terms of English paragraphs. And then the second, I just want to say that it's been a challenge with minutes in this committee in the first place because there was no person who was identified as a secretary. And we've all willingly just taken the notes, but because of the Zoom and then in person and the back and forth, it was always different people in attendance. We used to, if we had somebody, dedicated and attending all these meetings, it'd be one thing, but there's, COVID and sickness, and it's just been quite the challenge getting everyone at the table. I also want to recognize that this committee does have a mix of communication approaches. So for example, I'm hearing and I'm the chair. So I can't be the chair and the secretary at the same time. But there are also some deaf and hard of hearing members on this committee who, that maybe we're not always using their best approach. So maybe they're writing after the meeting, and then it's hard to kind of figure out in the moment, like where you are in terms of writing down the minutes. And then you really, it's hard to be deaf and watching an interpreter or communication and then writing at the same time. So it's hard to be doing minutes and notes. So it's just been a challenge. And I'd like to just state that to the public. If there are any other ideas, any other methods on how we can do this, what's effective, we'd love to hear it. Yes, that we do have CART. Yes, we do have the transcript in the end. And you can use it for writing notes, but you can't use the transcript for anything other than notes. You can't, it's just for minutes and to be transcribed and summarized. You cannot just use that transcript as the minutes. You're not able to do that. You have to summarize it and put it into your own terms and make minutes out of it. So that's not really an option just to say, hey, let's use the CART transcript. If there are any other ideas, maybe the commission could assign a person. I mean, I'm just not on the committee, like another person, maybe somebody in the committee can identify somebody outside of the committee who attends to be able to write minutes. So maybe that was an idea. I don't know. I'm going to have to sit on it, but I'm open to feedback. If anybody has any thoughts or opinions on this, please let me know. So public comments in the beginning was what was requested, which is fine. I think that's great so that we can hear out the concerns. And that will also help us steer the meeting in terms of what we're going to discuss as well. So right now there's open comment. If you're from the public and you'd like to say anything, if any community member want to put your name in the chat, you can do that to come on screen, or either or. You can use the chat or you can come on screen. If there are no public comments currently, we will have a second opportunity at the end, further into the meeting, for a public comment again. So are there any public comments currently right now?
And Kendra is interpreting, clarifying what Rain just said. My name is Bonnie. And I do have one question. You've been holding these meetings and you've had different issues that have come up and you've been writing them down. I'm wondering if any of those issues that have come up during those meetings, what has become of them? Has anything been resolved? We've been discussing quite a few topics for quite some time, because from what I am aware of currently, the referral service under the commission hasn't changed and hasn't improved. The community still has grave concerns about the referral service. So any issues that have been identified, any problems, have there been any resolutions to any of this? I know there's been a challenge with COVID and all those other things that you described, Rain, but I mean, that there's going to be other issues that can be resolved that have come up during these meetings. Thank you.
Thank you, Bonnie, for your question. It's a good question. So there has been no opportunity to ask that, right? Ask these questions because it's been so tough for the community to get here. So I understand why you want to take this opportunity to ask those questions. So two things I think I can think of in regards to your question. This committee has decided to identify multiple issues that we'd like to address, and really spend time delving into these issues, asking for feedback, hearing people's experiences, collecting anecdotes, and also
looking for a particular pattern in these issues that have come up.
So we can identify specific patterns that continue to come up, and we're just trying to visualize all of these specific issues. Well, I think I know what the problem might be. We really do have to collect everyone's experience, and that was our plan to do so purposely, and just really take a lot of time to do some outreach to the community and to be able to we have experiences from the communities, the committee members ourselves. And we also hear others that contact us. You're on the committee, I hear. So let me tell you these problems. So we do, community members do bring forth issues to the committee. There have been 1 or 2 times where the community member or a community member has come to Zoom. Not in person, but on Zoom, they will come and make their issues known. And when they do, we always try to question them further and get to the root of the problem. I wish that there were more instances of direct experiences that we could get. And there's many reasons why that's not happening. And it's not the community's fault. But our goal is to collect as much as possible. We want to have sound evidence, really, to just see what is out there, what is happening, and what people are experiencing. So tonight, the plan is to, well, my goal, it's perfect timing, actually, Bonnie, that you asked, because I wanted to discuss with the committee. Fine, we've collected all of these experiences, we've heard, and we've questioned. We've also clarified with the commission, the CDHH, maybe to clarify how procedures work, or if they have any procedures documented and the like. So we have been exchanging information, and they've been giving this extra information to us when we ask. You asked if anything has been resolved from that, and I can't say that it has. I do have some ideas, or the committee has discussed some ideas. We did some brainstorming, and a representative from the Rhode Island Commission from the Deaf and Hard of Hearing, Ernest and Holly, the referral specialist. When we bring our recommendations forth, they do have open minds, and they say that they can implement some of these recommendations. But I haven't heard of anything changing as of yet, or a new system set forth. So I'm hoping that answers your question. And also tonight, my goal is to kind of, it seems like it would make sense to shift this committee, and if committee members agree, to document and recommend what are the solutions, make these recommendations to the commission and the commissioners. So what we have collected, the information as well as the recommendations, that's what I'd like to talk about going forward. So it's a long answer, but it's on the agenda. We already planned to talk about that. So Bonnie, do you have a response? Would you like to say anything else, or are you good?
I think I'm good for now. Thank you for checking in. So you've already shared the concerns that you've received from the community to the full commission. But what I don't get is why there hasn't been any follow through with any suggestions. What's the holdup? What's holding the commission back from making these changes? Because some of the issues seem relatively easy it's an easy fix. So why have they not fixed these things? What's the barrier? What's the holdup to complete a particular task? What's taking so long? Thank you.
Thank you for that follow-up question. I think some reasons are because there's still a lot of ideas being discussed. We've identified a problem and talked about it publicly and openly here, is the lack of procedures. There are no procedural policies, no clear outline. So that means when you'd like to change something, what would you change? So I just want to clarify that. We need to come up with a policy. We need to draft the policy and the procedures. So a lot of our recommendations was, so we've told the commission our concerns, and we excuse me, that was an interpreter. We plan to tell the commissioners and the commission our ideas, our suggestions for how you're going to resolve these problems. So we will also send this to the commissioners, a clear suggestion list of what we think would work. And then from there on out, they're going to have to make decisions on what to change or what to implement. Some, like you said, some issues are easily resolved. And then there are some instances that they started to be fixed. And like, for example, the minutes that I just shared about the emergency referral, there is no more emergency interpreter referral, but many think that it is still something that is functioning still. Like mostly the hearing public. And we find out that the police department still has these advertisements, these solicitations for information to call the emergency referral service that is now defunct. So, we show up in person and say, no, this is no more. The hospitals, the police stations, we're not sure to what extent this is out there. We don't know who has all of this information and who has these posted in the businesses or organizations. Or we had talked to CDHH about resolving that one instance, and Ernest did comment, I wouldn't mind reaching out to this specific police department and letting them know that, the interpreter referral is no more. But we just need a systemic change. Most of the issues, to be honest, are quite trivial, but they're linked to the overall system. So that's my best answer. And I can't answer for the Commission for the Deaf and Hard of Hearing and how they're handling it. I don't know, I can't. But we have asked more than we've told. So we're just at the point of collecting information. Now we're shifting to making recommendations. There have been no recommendations made as of yet. So that's what we're focusing on from here on out. We have just been collecting data and experiences. And I've been reporting back to the commissioners, explaining what we've been working on, what our concerns are, and the like. So hopefully that answers your question. But I do agree. The system needs to be fixed, yes. I'm hoping with our recommendations from this committee, there will be some immediate fixtures, and then some will take some time, but some will be quite easy to implement, as you had stated. So. Okay, are there any other public comments from committee members or the public?
I'm not seeing any comments or questions in chat, so I guess we will continue. Wait a minute. I do have the chair report, and I actually talked about some of the topics already of what I plan to talk about throughout the whole meeting. And one of the things I wanted to speak about was our collecting of data, where you want to gather feedback from both the deaf community, hearing community, the interpreters, the requesters, what struggles people are facing. requesting those who request CART, all of these things. We typically have had the CART services done remotely. And we found out that that's something that's quite common. But those of the hard of hearing community have reached out and said, this is not the most effective way to do this. They've often asked, where is the CART person, the CART provider? Typically, in person is a better, efficient way of running meetings. So the response from the commission was, because of the people who are available to provide in-person services, there's such a limit of those providers. This is the best that they could do. So we did want to document one of the recommendations we wanted to see for that problem that the hard of hearing community was facing. Having the appropriate interpreter match a particular request, making sure that the person has the training, the information that they need to be the best interpreter. Also having the tier 1 and tier 2 agencies and interpreters, because not everyone understands what that is. And sometimes we have one interpreter from tier 2, one interpreter from tier 1, how they can work along with people, how they can work along together, and also gathering feedback from interpreters. There's a complaint about the process. For example, if an interpreter didn't work out so well, or if there's a complaint about the actual referral service, either one. We're trying to gather the community is not clear on what to do. If they have a specific complaint against an interpreter or the referral service, what's the process? And that process, the information for how to handle that complaint is not accessible. Individuals don't quite know how to file a complaint. If it's going to be done in English, there's a barrier to some. They need to clarify the process. This could include things like how to file a complaint to the Board of Licensure, the Department of Health Board of Licensure. What about if there's a problem with the commission, specifically the referral service? What's the process to file a complaint? Who does that go to? If there's an interpreter that's provided and perhaps their ethics are not quite right, perhaps their boundaries are not quite clear professionally, or some other infraction of the Code of Professional Conduct. How do we do that? Or where are these, if it's an agency that makes the referral, whether it's just not so much only a complaint, but perhaps they want to provide some type of feedback about the process or about that interpreter. What's the process for that? The community is not aware of what that process is. And that process is not accessible, nor is it clear. And the interpreters are not very clear on it as well. I mean, we as interpreters should know what the process is, and it's not always clear to us what the process is of filing a complaint. In the past, the commission there were no complaints. They said that they hadn't heard any complaints about interpreters or about the commission itself. And yet we have gathered lots of feedback of complaints about both interpreters and the referral process. So that's one area that we would like to focus on. And we'd like to make some recommendations on what to do about that. There's been a long challenge about this particular meeting for the ad hoc committee having access. And because of that, that's impacted many of our meetings. Many of our meetings could not be run because of conflict with the ADA. So we reached out to those in the higher level, and they agree. They realize the governor's office, representatives, senators, we reached out to them and they all agree, yes, this is a barrier to your particular committee. So I've been asking, what is the process? And finally, I was able to get some clarification on what the process is to address these barriers. So I do want to discuss this to see if this committee wants to proceed with making recommendations to make reasonable accommodations according to the ADA on a higher level, and go above whatever office we have to, because I am one person that's hearing. It's not accessible for me as a hearing person. However, if this meeting is a barrier for me, imagine what it's like for the committee meetings, and then the full commission meetings, what a barrier it is for others and those who have other disabilities, not just being hearing loss, and anything that's not related to COVID, other disabilities. It just seems to me that the law is rather old-fashioned that they have in place. There's no rationale why a deaf and hard of hearing community can't meet virtually. There's no rationale behind it. They just said this is the law, but it's an old law. They're just got to follow the rules, and that's the end of it. But there's got to be some type of accommodation. We have the Open Meetings Act, and the whole purpose for that is so that the public can see what's happening on a governmental state level. And yet, interesting, the people of the deaf and hard of hearing community have different needs. Having the Open Meetings Act in person for people to attend, they can see what's happening during these meetings. But for the deaf and hard of hearing community, what they need is to have the meetings virtual in order to get access to that same information. So we see that there are agencies that are in support of this, but we have to write something official to say that this is what we need for reasonable accommodations. So committee members, would you like us to pursue this? We can discuss it and then take a vote on that. This is something that I would like to discuss after the comments are taken, but just be aware that this is an ongoing battle that we've been having about reasonable accommodations, as you from the deaf and hard of hearing community are already aware of the battle for accommodation. I've also reported to the full commission quite a while ago about, I'm not sure if you remember, that I had asked, just a moment, there's a comment. Oh, there was a missed comment. I'm sorry, Anne, I missed your chat. Just let me go back and read that as well. I will answer that in a moment, Anne, okay? Just one moment, please. Sorry about that. I didn't need to overlook that comment. Oh, where was I? What was that? Give me a moment. I don't know. So if I remember what I was going to say, if it pops back into my head. And Kendra is refreshing, the conversation was about making accessible information and speaking to the commission about what's accessible, what reasonable accommodation is. Oh, that's right. Thanks. That refreshed my memory. Thank you, Kendra. So I did ask the full commissioners in the past about getting an extension for this executive order. And I said, how long is this extension going to, I'm sorry, the interpreter is going to, we need to know how long this committee, this ad hoc committee was going to focus on their work. We had said, initially we were told we were going to have 6 months to work on this. And so I said, hey, we need a little bit more time. How much longer can we have to work on these issues? And they said that we would have a time extension, but I don't have a specific amount of time. I haven't heard anything. How long we're supposed to continue our task. I also asked them if they could support the ADA reasonable accommodation that we requested, but I haven't heard any response from the full commission. It has been brought to the specifically to the full commission, but we haven't got any response on their part. And Kendra says, I believe there's something in the chat. Question or comment?
Drew has a question or comment.
Drew was saying that she needs to leave the meeting at 6 o'clock. Drew is in agreement that it's not valuable, it's not a valid law anymore to have the meetings OMA, so I'm sorry, just one moment for the interpretation to get clarification.
Do we need to take the time in this meeting to draft those, to draft that, or do we do it outside? But I know there's limitations in terms of the Open Meetings Act too. So I know dates and times can be talked about or can't be talked about, but can we talk about specific things?
That's correct. We're very limited about what we can discuss. You're correct, Drew. That's a good point. We can't discuss this outside of this official committee meeting. So I will, I'm not certain. So let me find out what the answer to that is, what can be discussed. If something that we can, for example, perhaps I could draft a very simple request, something very simple, just to ask have a request for reasonable accommodation to be made, and then just ask everyone to sign it. Or maybe we can do it, I could write something on behalf of the committee. That might be something that's possible. So that could be one option for a solution, if everyone's in agreement to that. Tina, she said yes, correct, you're in agreement. And Drew agrees to have that request for reasonable accommodation to be made. So Anne has not made a comment yet on this request. I know that Anne has other concerns that she wants to bring up. But Anne, are you for this or against it? Reaching out to the request for reasonable accommodations to be made for this particular committee? We've all, so do we want something to be, our letter to be written on behalf of this committee, just to make sure it's clear, a request for reasonable accommodations for these ad hoc meetings to be held? So Drew is correct. We cannot review. So if I were to make a draft and asking everyone to review this, that can't be done. So we could have maybe a quick meeting before the 21st to approve this letter to be submitted for a request for reasonable accommodations. That might be another option. So with no further comments, I guess I can make that, we can assume that, yes, let's go ahead and work on this. So we will discuss it and just have a very quick meeting just to discuss that one topic of making sure everyone's in agreement, because I don't want to make just a couple of us to have, it just doesn't seem fair that not everyone has access to these meetings. So thank you, Drew, for coming. I appreciate that. I know you have to leave by 6 o'clock, but thank you for joining us. So going back to what Anne had mentioned earlier. Hi, Drew. Thank you. Okay, so going back to what Anne's comment was at 5:46, Anne had requested related to her question. Anne had suggested it, or asked, is it possible to suss out the different issues which are easily addressed and resolved, and those that are a little bit more complex and will take longer time to resolve? My answer to that says, sure, why couldn't we do that? We certainly could do that within our recommendations to the commission, put them in order of priorities, those that can be fixed quickly and others that will take a little bit longer time to be addressed. Or we could actually say that we have to prioritize and say this particular problem has to be addressed first. That's a great idea, Anne. I just want to make sure I'm not missing any other comments. Okay. Make a couple of notes. so I don't forget. Take some notes to myself. Wonderful. So I do plan to ask all the committee members who are present today. What do you feel is the most important issue that needs to be addressed in terms of urgent discussions? And so we can, and also what are those that are really easy fixes? And we could also ask, what do you think are the more challenging ones? So if I could ask the current committee members. If you need some more time to think about it, please do that. But I just want to get everyone's feelings on the matter. If you feel like there's an issue that absolutely must be addressed urgently, we can start a list right now and make that the number one concern. We had talked in the past about having work groups. We could have maybe 2 persons, and those 2 persons, they can discuss topics outside of this meeting that is allowable, related to whatever work that they were assigned, a particular task. That could be one approach. We could decide to go ahead and discuss issues only during this meeting as a full group and make the list of recommendations. Or option number 3 is we could develop the work groups and then have them bring the ideas to the full meeting. That might be a more efficient use of time. And so the thing is, it's a challenge of not discussing it. We can't discuss anything outside of the meeting as a whole. We have to do this in little increments. So does anyone have any particular feelings or thoughts on this topic?
And commented in the chat. So there are 2 comments so far. So Anne had commented in regards to the accommodations and drafting a request for the accommodations. How does a committee plan to define accommodations? Will we make up our own definition, or do we use what's already stated there in the ADA for the deaf and hard of hearing accommodations? Yes, I plan to cite that from the ADA and use what they have already in there. So the ADA, and then also what the state of Rhode Island has in terms of accessibility for open meetings and the like, because the state, any state agency is obligated more so for access, for open access and equal access. So we do have a good argument, you know, under the ADA. And I had looked into that, and I had asked those in the government sector who monitor that, and they said, yes, I do have a good argument. So I think I have to pull it from the ADA and then explain how it works in this specific situation, how that would be relatable. Because some hearing people just don't know what deaf access looks like. So we have to just expand on that and explain why in-person is a problem and technology and we do have examples. We definitely have examples. So it will be successful to me anyway, in my opinion. Those who I've consulted with have given me their opinions, and they have stated that it is it seems like a good accommodation to be made, because it's the ADA and then stating and outlining what has been happening in this committee since. So we just have to outline for them and explain to them what have the barriers been, because they don't know. So we can put out examples, and then they could understand a little better. And the idea will be ongoing accommodations, not just a temporary waiver because of COVID. Because those temporary things and finding interpreters last minute because they were last minute put in whatever, in person or vice versa. Another thing too is that interpreters and CART, both of them are in very high demand and very low supply. So if there's remote CART, I think they're easily accessible because they're more available, but interpreters for this meeting has been a challenge. But it seems like if it's on Zoom, it's a little easier to get filled. So that was one barrier that we can explain as something we've experienced just in this committee. And Rhode Island is really in low supply of interpreters in general. So we're in a hard state, and it seems like everywhere CART is really in high demand as well. So that is one reason. So hopefully that answers your question. We do have to remember that we need to prove good validation, but not kind of just, take advantage and make it look like it's really not an accommodation, it's more for convenience. So Tina had also commented that the idea of coupling up, so partnering up and making a work group, and then doing your task and coming back to the greater group, the committee here. And I agree, that seems to be more efficient in terms of timeliness. And I think it's, again, been challenging. Not everyone is in the same meeting, is in this meeting at the same time. So if we could assign, I guess either I would have to assign partnerships here, and it is what it is. You can't really converse through email. You can't correspond through email. So you can't say, oh, me and this other person have the same schedule, so it'd be easier. It's great, but I can't correspond. So if today we assign the partners and the work groups, and then at the next meeting, we can, you could have a meeting between now and then we could review it at the next meeting and, figure out if you want to reprioritize or regroup. Does that make any sense? What is everybody else's opinion? I'll wait just a minute for responses to come in. Tina responded, seems she agrees it's the only way to move forward before the next meeting. And right, so if not, we're just going to have to keep coming back and, spending this precious meeting time it's going to just take forever. So. Okay. So I think that's a good idea on how to proceed. And at the next meeting, if there's complaints and, if you want to change something up, we can talk about that. And I think in the past, people did seem to agree with this idea, doing it this way, just giving more flexibility in terms of being able to complete some work. I'm wondering if I can assign people outside of this meeting. I'm just trying to think about now, like what's going on, and then who. I mean, it's a waste of time if I just sit here and start drafting paper and then like partnering people up and like, yeah, I think it'd be better if I just shoot it out afterwards. So I'll just guess I'll do that. I'm just trying to think of the best way to do that with respect to the Open Meetings Act. Okay, I guess I'll just think about that. But okay, so Anne says she agrees with Tina. It's the only way to proceed, perhaps. Perhaps we could clarify with the Attorney General's office to make sure we wouldn't be in violation of the Open Meetings Act, or to request an exemption if necessary. And so I did that. And I had clarified, I reached out to the Attorney General and we can. AG, and I've reached out to AG and others, and I agree. That's right. That does not violate the Open Meetings Act. Right, so we as members of the committee can request accommodations. Those are accommodations would be for ourselves or yourself and whoever else is in the meeting. So that means that we'll discuss, well, really, hold on, let me go back. So I will bring discussion points, like what we need to discuss, and what we need to revise. Everybody in agreement that this is the priorities we're going with, we'll all agree, and then go from there. We'll then recommend it. We cannot discuss an email because that would violate the Open Meetings Act. But the request itself does not violate the Open Meetings Act. Is that clear? Okay. Again, I'm just thinking, I just have to think about the partnership and how I'm going to pair people up. But so I was planning to not go on break and just wrap up early, especially if it's a smaller meeting. If anybody disagrees, let me know. Obvious people have to like go, you can go off to the restroom if you need. But if you do need a break, we can. If not, I just plan to proceed. Okay. Yes, Tina says keep going. Okay. I think that makes the most sense. Okay. So we agree we will go ahead and form some work groups. We'll do some I have to do the math here. Partners or 8 total. So yeah, we can do groups of 2. And so we'll pair up, and then you guys can get together on Zoom or whatever and talk about what you need to do. And think about the priorities that you think need to be resolved. So problems that we've identified. If you're not really sure what's the most pressing, just make a list of the stressors there, the most stressing ones, and then.
Kendra said Anne has made a request. She needs a break. It's in the chat.
So Anne, yeah. So How long do you need, Anne? For a break? Now I'm going to review what we've talked about tonight and what's left to review. And then there will be open comment again. So that's all we have to get through. I'm wondering if Anne probably already walked away to go charge her iPad. Wait 1 minute. So we'll go ahead and break in 5 minutes because I don't want Anne to miss anything. So we'll just go ahead and break for 5 minutes. We'll come back and then hopefully Anne will be all set. All right. I had to do the math. Be back at 6. What? Oh, Anne commented that she's back. Anne, are you set or do we need to give you a small break there? I think we'll just go ahead and break 5 minutes. So come back at 6. Someone help me here. 6:21, 23, 6:23. Thank you. Thank you,
26.
Kendra.
6:26, Kendra said.
6:23. 26 or 20? Now 24. See you soon. Goodbye. The comment said, thank you for the interpreters for working tonight. Thank you.
That was the comment from Tina. Thank you.
Especially Kendra, who helped me with the time, with the math. Thank you for that, Kendra. But seriously, thank you. And thank you for the deaf interpreter for being here. They're always helpful. So now Amy Slezak has joined in as a committee member. Now we have Amy, Ann, Tina, and not Drew. Drew has left. Is there a comment? Oh, I had commented to Ann if she was all set. I just want to check. I don't see her answer. Before break, Ann said that she was all set. But just wanted to check if she's all good. I have no other way to check. Yeah. I like to the back channel feedback, and I don't have that. So tough. Something came up and blocked my Zoom. Okay. So we are going to go ahead and hope Ann is with us. Okay. I know Amy Slezak has just joined. She had missed the first part of the meeting before break, but has joined in for the second half. We are going to review our agreements for this meeting and then open comment again. I do want to give opportunity for Amy to comment as well. Maybe she doesn't know that, what we've discussed up till now. I'll review some and then I'll check with Amy, see if she wants to comment. Okay. And then we'll open the comments. And really that's all for tonight. So. Let me find where I was. Okay. So we had agreed that we will request the ADA accommodations to have the meeting in Zoom. We will escalate that and we'll ask to have that instated for Zoom permanently, not just temporarily because of COVID and not because of an executive order. It would be completely separate and an ADA accommodation. We also agreed that I would bring a draft to the next meeting. And if any of you have any ideas that you'd like to include in that letter, please do. And then we'll look that over and come to a consensus on it. And as a committee, we can agree that that's what we want to submit and ask for our accommodation. Remember, that is only for our committee, this specific committee. But I'm hoping that that will expand and actually cause a ripple effect to other committees and the commission and other deaf individuals across the state who utilize Zoom. We were talking about work groups and pairing up. to do some tasks in those work groups. We're going to identify the issues that we've been speaking about and that people have been coming forth with. And we'll document those and then come up with ideas and then suggestions. And in your pairs, your group pairs, you can come up with what you need. If you feel like there's something important that you need to put down, that's a barrier, an issue, then put those on the list. And if you're not sure, then put down whatever you have, and we'll come to the meeting and we'll already have some work done. So all of us will have our lists, and we'll compile them and probably carry over to the next meeting to kind of prioritize all of the group's concerns. Anne had an idea that perhaps we could suss out all of the immediate fixable items, and then those that are a little bit more complex. We can start in on the easily resolved problems first, and then the ones that take a little longer will have to take a little longer. So I agree, that is a great idea. In our partners, they're going to be assigned. You'll find out who is your assigned partner, but you can't discuss it because we can't discuss it outside of this meeting. So you just have to stick with it. If your schedules don't really mesh up really well, then maybe you could do some emails or some Marco Polos and do some sort of corresponding, whatever works, text, Google Doc, share, whatever. Come up with your lists, and then at the next meeting, you can say, oh, it was really tough coordinating our schedules. Can we think about restructuring here or something like that? Just bring your concerns in, but we just want to get going here on some of the tasks at hand. Another idea we had was we didn't know if those partnerships, once solidified, if Ernest could send them out after this meeting. I don't know if Ernest was available to answer. So was that a yes, Ernest?
Yes, this is Ernest speaking. So when you email something to me, I can email it to all the members, and then they can respond to me. So you can go ahead and forward that to me.
Great, thank you. That will get the ball rolling. I do want to consider communication between the pairs. So if there are any concerns about that now, like if anybody's concerned about linguistic barriers, whether that be ASL or English, please let me know. I'd prefer to figure that out before we end the meeting, because I do not want to assign you with the opposite language. So.
And Kendra is saying correct. You want to be able to work it out smoothly, who can communicate with each other.
Thank you. Tina's chat said she's open to whoever. So if somebody doesn't use ASL fully, we might put them with Tina, who can do both languages. I don't want to add more barriers, that's for sure. I want to be able to have this accessible. We could request an interpreter in CART, but really, honestly, that would probably make it, take even longer. So I think it just be direct linguistic access. And if there are communication barriers, then just report to Ernest. I doubt there will be, but you never know. Okay. So that's our current strategy going forward. We've been focusing on collecting the data, the anecdotes, information, recognize issues. And now we're going to make a list with our pairs of patterns, and what we see come up, and then just focus on how to structure that, how to recommend what to do to resolve these barriers. So either way, you could do that, identify the problem, or you can focus on solutions, whatever you can. I think it's fine to bring both to the table. So just put down all the problems, put down all the solutions you can think of, and then we can reprioritize and match them up when we get to the meeting. What else did we talk about? Tonight, it's hard for me to remember. My brain's already sleeping. Where's my notes? Oh, next meeting, right. So we wanted to talk about the ADA request. Maybe we could set up like a really short meeting because it really just needs a concise draft. And so that Zoom mandate ends February 21st. So maybe we could try to set up a meeting prior to and try our best to get that on Zoom. Maybe I'll put out availability schedules and see who can make it or not. So when we're talking about the priorities and just the suggestions and the noticing issues, that'll be at the next meeting. But do we want to complete? Do we want to have it that for 2 meetings? So we'll come to the first meeting with a list of problems and solutions, and then kind of structure and prioritize that, and then go to the next meeting. And we might need a second meeting to reprioritize or to go delve deeper in.
And so Kendra will be clarifying what Rain just said.
Maybe Kendra, you can help me phrase this question. Do we want 2 meetings? Like one pretty soon to finish the ADA draft and submit that. Make sure it gets done before the February 21st so we can harp on the Zoom, and then a second meeting to talk about the problems and the solutions. Or do you feel like we can cover both in one meeting?
And so now Kendra is clarifying what Rain requested. Hang on just a second.
I already understand what you're saying, Rain. Sorry, I'm going to go off and you go ahead. I'm just stumbling here. So I think that if people are available to do the ADA request, go ahead and do that before the 21st, but on the 21st, 22nd, if possible, because the executive order finishes then. So if when it ends, is that what we're planning for that meeting? I'm assuming that next Monday we could probably do a Zoom. And then if not, I guess we could just go ahead with one long meeting for both, killing both at the same time. Got it?
Wonderful. Okay. Thank you, Amy. So now I just looked at both of the chats. So the first chat said that you're open, you would like to be partnered with someone who communicates in ASL. Wonderful. I got that. Thank you. I'll make note of that. And the other point you mentioned, right. So I don't know if we can do it on the 21st. That is a holiday though, isn't it? I believe it's a state holiday. A Rhode Island state holiday or not? I'm sorry, I'm not.
No, it's not. It's not.
Okay, great. Thank you, Ernest. So I always have to ask because I've worked in so many different states and I wasn't sure what's a legal state holiday here or not. But okay, so we could meet on the 21st. That is doable. Let me see, I see 2 chats. Tina says that she's available on the 21st. Wonderful. Is that what you said, Tina? It says available 021.
On.
Oops, never mind. Okay. Oh, the best, Kendra. Thank you so much. Thanks for your help, Kendra. Okay, so Tina is available and Amy is available. You know what? I haven't seen Anne, so I'm wondering if we've lost her. Wonder if I haven't gotten any response. She's typically very involved in the chat comments, so. And I haven't even gotten an email or any communication from her telling me oh. Wonderful. Yay, Anne. I'm so glad you're here. Okay. So that's wonderful. You can you can meet Anne, Tina, Amy, myself. That's 4 of us. So 4 can definitely meet on the 21st. So hopefully the others 4 will be able to meet on the 21st as well. Or if not, at least we get as many as possible to meet. So that means, let's see, we just have to pick a time for the meeting. We can do it now, or I can send out a doodle poll. I mean, if we do it now, that might be better. So that way we don't have to send out another communication via a doodle poll. I want to see if anyone's going to answer in the chat, offering a time that we could meet next Monday, the 21st. Yeah, Tina mentioned 5 to 7. I was going to say the same. Amy said that works for her. Wonderful. We'll wait and see what Anne responds. It worked for Anne before, hopefully it will again. So that's a great idea. So let's go ahead. Yes, and 5 to 7, correct. 5 to 7 p.m., not 5 a.m. No, not 5 a.m., 7 a.m., absolutely not. Definitely in the p.m. Are you available, Anne? I'll wait for Anne to respond. So we will plan on 5 to 7. And hopefully we can work out the interpreter and the cart requests. Hopefully that'll all work out. There's not much time to put on that request, but that's why I don't like to just keep, I wish we could have made it before, but this executive order, unfortunately, is a barrier. So if we can do this, I'm just thinking positive, maybe they'll extend it yet again, but who knows? But anyway, I'll wait for Anne to respond to see what she says. But okay, so we will go ahead and, I'm sorry, Amy, okay, Anne says it works. Woo, okay, 5 to 7 works for her. That's wonderful. So 5 to 7 on Monday, the 21st. Let me write that down. Wonderful. And Ernest.
This is Ernest speaking. Monday, 5 to 7. Would you mind emailing me your agenda by this Wednesday? Oh no, yeah, by this Wednesday.
By this Wednesday, okay, I can do that. Wonderful. Thank you, Ernest. Amy, did you have any comments that you wanted to add, or we could open comments to the public?
I think everything looked good. I agree with what you are working on and discussing the problems, the solutions, the pros and cons pretty much. And then, yeah, thinking about what else. All sounds good. So I'm looking forward to Monday's discussion with the ADA accommodations.
Wonderful. Thank you. Are there any comments from the public that you would like to address at this time? I saw a Tina. It says, Tina's comment says she feels like we're making progress. Yeah, I'm hoping that that's what we want. We want to make progress. And that's something that the community wants. Clearly, it's time. Well, replying to what Bonnie said, you're right. This is time to get things moving. Are there any last comments before we adjourn the meeting?
I have a question. Do we plan to bring that to the commission for the letter again, or?
Are you referring to the ADA reasonable accommodations letter?
No, remember that you and I had gone to the commission meeting a while ago and we had asked for a letter. I think it was an ADA, and then there was another one, the extension of the board. And I'm wondering if you heard anything back from either of those.
Amy, at the very beginning of the meeting, I know you weren't here for that. We did ask the commissioners. I personally asked the commissioners as a representative of this committee if they would support us in requesting the reasonable accommodations with the ADA and write a letter that we can use in support. But I didn't get an answer from the full commission. And then what you said about requesting the, I asked the commission about getting an extension for meeting virtually, and I did not get an answer from that at all. They didn't give me a response as to when this virtual meeting will end, if it will be extended. I haven't heard anything in response from the commission.
I have not heard anything in regards to if the committee itself will be extended to serve or not. Not the on virtual as an interpreter.
Thank you. There's going to be a commission meeting soon, and it's going to be held virtual. It's now virtual, so that means I believe I can attend at least part of that meeting. So I will give a report during that meeting. So hopefully we can get follow up and get an answer.
Thank you.
Thank
you.
Very good. Any other comments from the public? If not, we can adjourn the meeting. Tina is making a motion to adjourn the meeting. Amy is the second. Wonderful. Thank you. Let's go ahead and adjourn the meeting. Thanks everyone for your patience and thanks for your attendance. Thank you, interpreters, as well.
Rain, if you could wait a minute. Rain, wait a minute. Ernest is asking if you could wait a minute. Ernest, you ask if Rain, right? Rain? Oh, Lynn, sorry. That was not Rain, Lynn. Lindsay, if you could stay. Thank you. Saying, do you still need the interpreters, and do you still need to keep recording?
One interpreter.
So Lindsay said one interpreter is